The 10 member nations of ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, stand to play a valuable economic and geopolitical role. But as China grows, can the ASEAN nations push their clout onto the international scene? For more on the region, we're joined by Surin Pitsuwan. He is the Secretary General of ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. And welcome to Canada.
Thank you very much, Steve.
For those of our viewers who may not know what ASEAN is, we're going to put a bit of background up and then we'll come back and chat. For example, this is an organization that was founded in 1967, the year Canada turned 100 years old.
Exactly.
Your headquarters, rather, are Jakarta, Indonesia, which is where you live. The membership, 10 states, Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar/Burma, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam. Combined population of the member states is 600 million people. That's 8% of the world's population. And the combined GDP, $2.2 trillion US dollars. It forms the third largest economy in all of Asia. Why don't we start, Dr. Surin, by you telling us, what's your mandate?
Well, actually, the 10 countries of Southeast Asia came together in order to form an integrated market, in order to compete. Certainly, competition from a small base by individual countries would not be as strong as competing from the base of 600 million people, 2.2 trillion US dollars. And we are working on a community. It's economic community and also political community in order to be a more cohesive 10 countries, one community, working into the future together.
If you had to compare it to the European Union in terms of how it works and currency and so forth, how would you make the comparison?
Well, it's the second most effective regional organization from, first is Europe, but far second, because so much diversity among our membership and difference in economic development. And certainly we are not forming a union, and we are not working on one currency. The EU has not given us that much encouragement.
So you've looked at what they've done and you've thought, maybe not.
It has never been on the drawing board from the beginning because of the diversity among us.
Tell me whether you think increasing membership is on the drawing board.
East Timor is probably the latest member of the international community. It came into being in 2002. We have helped them, in order to grow up, to become a separate nation from, it was absorbed by Indonesia after Portugal withdrew from that colony. And it has made an application into the membership of ASEAN, so it will be 11. But the ministers are still considering.
Do you know when they might get in?
I can't tell, but the tendency is eventually it probably would join ASEAN. But we have to make sure that expansion will not bring too much stress on the organization. Already tremendous diversity, so we have to be careful, but the sentiment is rather positive.
In that list of 10 countries I gave earlier, one cannot help but notice that China is not on that list. How come?
Well, I mean, these countries of the small and medium size in Southeast Asia, China is a dialogue partner, the same as Canada is our dialogue partner for the past 35 years. India is a dialogue partner, the US, Russia, but among us, only 10, and the beauty of the 10 is that threatening none, accommodating all. And we have been given the role of centrality, trying to build a community, small c, integrated East Asia, which is certainly different from the experience of the EU.
See, when you say threatening none, I immediately infer that China's not in there because you'd find them too threatening.
Well, it's too large to be among us, but they are at a distance. They are a neighbor. Actually, China is a close neighbor, bordering Myanmar, a member, Burma, and bordering Laos, bordering Vietnam, but not a full member, a partner, what we call a dialogue partner.
China, of course, is involved in some territorial disputes. We're hearing a lot about that now vis-a-vis Japan. But they've also got some claims against some of your members in the South China Seas. I think of those Spratly Islands, which
Yes.
are 750
Yes.
islands, not
Yes.
far from
Yes.
Malaysia and the Philippines. Is ASEAN involved in trying to resolve those disputes?
It is in ASEAN's interest to try to mediate and try to come up with a new body of code of conduct, we call, bring norms from what have already been accepted and practiced around the world in this kind of issue, so that we can have for ourselves a tool that would guide us in times of this kind of tension, this kind of conflict. We are working on that code of conduct. China and the ASEAN countries are engaged in this, and China has problem with Japan now, and Japan has problem with Korea. This is why ASEAN centrality is important, because we can provide some kind of initiative of forming a more cohesive region into the future, and know exactly what kind of tools and instruments and diplomatic code of conduct that we need in order to avoid open conflict. We are concerned what's happening between China and Japan because they are important to us.
Sure,
They
but
are
you're also
main partners.
10 countries, and
Yes.
it's hard to imagine that you could all speak with one
Well,
voice on
yes,
these
only
kinds
4
of issues.
countries have problems of these territorial claims with China. The other 6 are part of the grouping wanting to help, trying to, because all of us are exporting, all of us are importing. We trade with China, we trade with Japan, a lot of trade, 85% of trade in the Asia Pacific have to go through the border, the waterways of the South China Sea. So we are all interested
But
in
if a country had a problem with China, is it better for them to try to solve it bilaterally with the Chinese or go through ASEAN?
Eventually, that's what will happen. Territorial claims will have to be bilateral, but at least we can serve as a forum, we can serve as a process, a stage of discussion, so that we can bring some calm and some rationality in the discussion to the region.
I'm going to read an excerpt here. It's a rather long one, so get
Yes.
comfortable. This is
All
from
right.
the Council on Foreign Relations, September 24th. Compared to other regional organizations, not only in Europe but also in Africa and Latin America, ASEAN remains badly understaffed, with little ability to do its own independent research and analysis, and headed by a figure who, although sometimes capable, as in the current case, is given minimal powers and cannot compete on the global stage with leaders from the Southeast Asian nations themselves. The current ASEAN head, former Thai Foreign Minister Surin Pitsuwan, does not even attract the global attention that Singapore's finance minister does, let alone the leaders of nations like Singapore and Indonesia. Secretary Hillary Clinton or other American, Japanese, or Australian officials pushing and prodding ASEAN to develop a stronger organization is likely to have little impact. The organization was designed to be relatively weak by powerful, often autocratic leaders of the original ASEAN member states who were highly reluctant to cede any ground to a regional organization. They say nice things about you in there, but not necessarily nice things about the whole organization. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I mean, we have to strike a balance between trying to form an organization and trying to find a common agenda and move on a basis of consensus, and then trying to find some way to bring creativity and bring initiative into the process. I've been trying to do that. Of course, capitals are still reluctant. As I said, we are not a union like in Europe. What is decided on the basis of consensus, and if the slowest member of the group cannot move as fast, we will have to slow down, we'll have to wait. So the process is incremental, the process is step by step, and brings a lot of frustration to dialogue partners like the US, like Japan, like the EU, but we are trying to do our best.
But if
The
I'm
fact that
reading-
we could survive for the past 45 years together as a group is already a miracle. With all the diversity that we have, and we still attract a lot of attention, a lot of participation from around the world, including Canada.
But it sounds, Dr. Surin, as if you don't have any power other
Well-
than the ability to persuade.
Well, I think the space that is given to me now is still limited, and I'm going through a process of consultation with member states that if you want to really form a community, you need a very strong central mechanism. And that central mechanism will need the space for itself, will need the power for itself, will need a mandate for itself that could lead the community. And that is under discussion, that is being reviewed now.
But this author is making the case that ASEAN is not a powerful or influential organization. Would you make the counter case, which is it is growing in importance?
Well, the fact that it has been given this role of centrality, the only forum that is Asian-wide, Asia-Pacific-wide, that can talk about security, can talk about political issues, differences, is the ASEAN Regional Forum. And Canada has been a member of this forum since the beginning. And Canada has been our dialogue partner for 35 years. This is the year celebrating our 35th anniversary. The US is there, Japan, China, Korea, Australia, New Zealand, the EU, India, Russia. Major powers are part of our dialogue partnership. And I think the fact that we are walking into the future together under the same vision of creating a community, 600 million and 10 member states, attracting a lot of attention, attracting a lot of investment, is certainly a statement in itself.
Well, maybe that helps answer my next question, which is, what are you doing here anyway? Why are you in Canada?
Well, I'm here as a part of this 35th anniversary celebration between us, and your government, your current government, has expressed a keen interest. The Canadian leaders are very much committed to pay more attention, because that's where the market is, because that's where the growth is, and that's where the consumers are. So, Canadian export, Canadian services, Canadian goods are certainly looking for new markets rather than just the traditional markets that you have, that is the US and Europe. So East Asia is a new center of growth. Therefore, a lot of countries are looking that way. For Canada, it's not looking east, but looking to your west in order to get to the western part of the Pacific.
Well, that's true. We look west, but on the other hand, there is this East Asian Summit, which Canada wants to be a part of, and which I gather at the moment does not have a seat at the table. How come?
Well, the architecture is new. It was established in 2005 with the ASEAN initiative, and it's the ASEAN leaders, 10 of them, who would decide who would come in at what time. And I think the 8 countries that are in, the latest are the Russians and the US, have been in and trying to find the common agenda among ourselves, trying to make sure that the architecture is working and moving in the right direction. All the rhythms are, in sync with each other.
But if you want us to look west and be
well, I mean, there are many other channels, many other forums or fora that Canada now already engage with Asia and Pacific. My appeal is to increase, to enhance the profile. I think Canada is still punching below your own weight in East Asia, in Southeast Asia. And now there has been a new mechanism being set up called ASEAN Canadian Business Council. And that council is going to form as a platform for Canadian business to engage more with the opportunities that we have in Southeast Asia.
So Canada's punching below its weight economically in Southeast Asia. How about politically?
It can play a very crucial and critical role of all the things that are happening. A lot of fault lines in East Asia, a lot of flashpoints. Many major countries have their historical baggage with each other. Therefore, ASEAN has been given that role to host that forum called the ASEAN Regional Forum. Canada has been there from the beginning.
What role would you like to see Canada playing?
Well, mediating role,
Can we do that?
conciliating role. I think you have excelled in the past anyway. And that's your credit, that's your brand name. And I think Canada can make a contribution into the region. Of course, with a lot of care, a lot of sensitivity, and you have been very careful and very sensitive about the sentiment of people around the world anyway.
If Canada is punching below its weight in that region, why do you think that is?
Well, there's a sense of reservation, maybe a distance, maybe reluctance, rather less familiar place than, let's say, in Europe. but opportunity is there.
Maybe we're
and
not
the
as-
goodwill is there.
Maybe we're not as respected as we once were?
Well, I think the challenge is on your own part, that you are not probably as engaging. You used to be, definitely. I mean, I have dealt with your former foreign ministers before who have had a leading role in initiating, in promoting certain causes, certain values, certain norms that Canada practice and aspires to. For example, the issue of human security, the issue of responsibility to protect. Lloyd Exworthy was very much a champion of all these initiatives. So certainly there is a role and there has been precedent, and we would like to see more.
Dr. Surin, it's awfully good of you to spend some time with us here at TVO today, and enjoy your time here in Canada.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Support Ontario's public television. Donate at tvo.org.